Hello, everybody. So, the first few minutes of this will be a little bit awkward only because you can't see me, and I'm going to be talking about things that are not necessarily on the screen right now. But the purpose for PLC today is twofold. The first is we've received the data back from the practice test that the students took last week, and many of you are already implementing some sort of program on your campus where the data is being used to drive instruction. Mr. Virgin has asked Mr. Coast and I to just come up with a plan that is content specific to be able to use this data, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What you're going to be required to do is, like I mentioned before, a variation for some of you already with things that your campus has been asking you to do with this data. So to go over some of the logistics of what's going to happen, for the next 2 weeks up until spring break, during guided reading, you are going to continue with your typical guided reading practices. After spring break, that's going to shift and look a little bit differently. Your guided reading groups are no longer going to be guided reading groups. They will be groups where the students have been grouped based on the standard that they are reviewing. So, for example, based on the data, which we're going to take a look at the reports to be able to make these determinations, let's say based on the data, you have 16 students who failed standard RI 7.1. If that's the case, then those students would be grouped into two groups of 8, and each of those groups would work on standard RI 7.1. Now, 8 is a little big for groupings. If it's possible for you to make smaller groups, that is ideal. However, you cannot have more than 4 groups per week. Okay. Now, is it possible for the entire class to be working on one standard? It is possible, but it has to be supported by the data. That would mean that 100% of the students in your class needed remediation with that one standard. Otherwise, you're going to have 4 groups, and each of those 4 groups could potentially be working on a different standard. Now, when are you going to be working with these groups? We're going to combine the independent and guided reading time so that you have 23 minutes each time you meet with your classes to work with one group. So you're going to work with one group each time you meet with your classes for a total of 23 minutes instead of the 2 groups that you typically meet with now. Now, what are you going to be working on with these students when you're meeting with them during these 23 minutes? Every Monday, again, every Monday for every class, every grade level, this is for grades 3 through 8. Every Monday, students after the skills block, are going to take a 10-question multiple choice Linkit quiz. Okay, so again, every Monday after skills, students are going to take a 10-question multiple choice quiz that's developed on Linkit. Each student potentially could be taking a different quiz. Again, the quiz they should be taking is this. It should be in alignment with the skill that you've identified for that group. So you may have 5 students working on RI 7.1's quiz, 5 more students working on RI 7.2, 5 more students working on RL 7.1, and then your last 5 students working on RL 7.5. Again, keep in mind, you cannot have more than 4 groups since you need to meet with each group each week. So on Monday, they're going to take the quiz, and then starting the next time that you see your students, you're going to go over that quiz with them, question by question, to review the skills and the difficulties that students may have. These quizzes are not counting towards a student's grade. Again, these quizzes are not counting towards a student's grade. The reason why we decided collectively at the CS meeting for this to happen in class was because there was a concern that if this was sent home for homework, that students would not complete the quiz, and then it's setting us back during class time to be able to work with these students on specific skills. So again, on Monday, when you see your students after skills, they will take their quiz, and then they are ready to go to meet with you the subsequent days during the week. I think that takes care of the logistics. Let's log into Linkit now, if you can follow along with me, to pull up some of the reports that are going to be useful to you. Again, some of you may have already seen these reports, others may have not. Regardless, we're all going to go to reporting, and then we're going to click on admin. Okay. Now I do believe that you may not see this district option. Your school should be checked off. If not, and you do have these two options, please make sure you click on school and then select your school. I'm going to pull up Passaic Middle High. Okay, and you should see all of your exams across here in blue. So I'm going to pull the 6th grade exam. Okay, make sure that you're selecting the exam that says TEI. This is for Tech Enhanced AG Form A. We're not selecting the Constructed Response Form A. We're selecting the TEI. What I did there, I just dragged this down to the area below. Then you're going to scroll down, and you're going to notice that you have all the classes here for 6th grade. Now, some of the students have been separated. If they are an ESL student or special education student, that's fine. You will just have to click on those separately to review the standards that this particular student had difficulty with. I recommend that you click on the one that has the most students. So I'm going to click on 6A. Okay, when I click on that screen, you'll see here that these reports show the percentage of students who answered each question correctly. Okay, you can use this if you are reviewing the actual practice tests in your classes, but the reports that we want to see is under standards. So if you click the standards tab, you will see that each of the standards that were covered on this exam are listed to the right and have been color coded. Obviously, the first standards that you want to work with are the ones that are in red. Okay, so I'm going to click on RL 6.6. When you click on the standard, it will show you which students need more work on this particular standard, RL 6.6. Now, once these students have been grouped into RL 6.6, they cannot overlap into another group. Now, they definitely, there's, a good chance that there are other standards that these same students need work on, but you will go over that the following week. You'll put them into a different group to work on a different standard that they also needed help with, okay? So this is a good starting point to group these students here. Students who you don't have listed here, you're going to find their weakest standard, okay? Now, if you click on students, let's say you have Angeline, she wasn't in that first group there, but you need a skill for her to work on. You're going to click on her personally, and it will show you her standards that she needs the most work with, okay? And she has at least 5 standards that you want to work on with her. So if she was in 6.6, it just so happens, but let's say she wasn't in RL 6.6, then perhaps you would give her the assessment on RI 6.4 since she also struggled with that standard. Okay, so these are the reports that you're going to use to help you make your groups. What you're going to do today is you're going to work together to divide the work for creating these quizzes. So by the end of today's PLC, you're going to have a 10-question multiple choice exam for every standard, for reading literature standards and reading informational standards. How you split that up amongst yourselves is completely up to you. That concludes the first portion of our explanation today. I only have a limit of 15 minutes on one video, so I'm going to stop this one and I'm going to start a second one to show you how we're going to create those exams. Talk to you in a few minutes.